Hi everybody, I wanted to show you some of my favorite dolls. These dolls were made by Paul Kreese and Peter Coe, and in 1997, I believe it was, Paul Kreese and Peter Coe entered into a collaboration with author Anne Rice. Anne Rice is just a wonderful and amazing author. She created, most famously, the Vampire Chronicles, and she wanted someone in the doll industry, being a doll enthusiast herself and a doll collector with a huge collection at the time. She wanted someone to bring her characters to life in doll form, and Paul Kreese and Peter Coe were chosen. They made a vinyl line of Anne's Vampire Chronicle characters, Louis, Claudia, and Lestat, but they also made a very smaller wax doll line, and this included Lestat, who was limited to 20, and also limited to 20 was Louis and Claudia. There were very few Louis and Claudias to go around, because although the edition stated 20, I have only seen about 2 in my time that were actual wax Louis and Claudias. There is editions of 50 of Louis and Claudia in vinyl, and 500 of Lestat in vinyl. These in front of you are the poured wax dolls edition of all three, of 20 of each. This is Lestat, as I said before, red velvet, and this is trimmed in, of course, this beautiful fur. This is simulated fur by choice. There was 2 versions of Lestat made at the time. The wax one had either simulated or real fur. I am not a proponent of anything real fur or meat or anything like that. I am a vegetarian. That's another story, but just to let you know how I feel about it, real fur is not anything for me. I think the synthetic fur is just a beautiful choice, very lavish. Look at that gorgeous lace cuff he's got there. Look at the embroidery on his jacket. Look at that gold trim. Of course, you can see here his vest. And of course, the sculpt. Glorious. These pieces were sculpted in what is called death gray wax. Of course, they're undead. Of course, they're vampires, so they needed that unearthly kind of tone. Now, there is an edition of 20 wax Claudias. As I was saying, I do not believe 20 pieces were ever fully produced. That's what happens very often, not just with the Vampire Chronicles dolls we're talking about, but Paul Kreese and Peter Coe went into making a doll, making an edition, let's say 30, 40, 20, and quite often they cut that down as production went along, whether it was for supply and demand, whether it was for orders, whatever happened, very often the full line was not produced. My Lestat was, of course, an edition of 20 Lestats in wax were made. In the case of my Louis and Claudia that are wax, they are both marked as prototype, which means that they were the prototype of the wax line, but it's uncertain how many were actually made, as I said. Usually with Paul Kreese and Peter Coe dolls, they are marked on the neck, and it gives the signature of Paul Kreese, the number of the doll, and the year it was made. Claudia, absolutely fantastic. I love this character. The gorgeous child vampire, made immortal by Louis, destined for her existence to become and stay just as she is, as a child. Meanwhile, she had her mind going to be a fully functional woman, trapped in the body of this beautiful child. Just as ruthless, just as cunning as Lestat, but of course this angelic face. I love that painting. Her beautiful white gown here with her flowers, and of course Louis, the melancholy Louis of Lestat and Claudia, the evil trio as Anne used to call them. Louis is magnificent. I absolutely love his face. I love that painting. Dressed in his beautiful black cape with his vest here. Of course, that sumptuous lace again. You can see his neck ruff there. Beautiful, beautiful sculpt. These particular dolls were adapted from the book version that's given in the Vampire Chronicles series. There is another series of dolls based on the movie version of these characters, which I will show in another video, based on the movie characters and of course the actors as in the movie, Kirsten Dunst, Brad Pitt, and Tom Cruise. These, as I say, is the movie version. I also love the way the dolls are made, that they are, of course, individual and they're all beautiful in their own way, but they interact as a set as they should. And that's what it is when you're making a set of dolls or characters. They need to not only be functional on their own, but to be beautiful together. My friends, I appreciate you checking out this video. Please, you can comment, you can message me, anything that you want to add, say, whatever, please do. Know that I am always looking for dolls by Paul Kreese and Peter Coe. The wax ones, please message me if you are thinking of selling, because I would love to hear from you. And be safe and be well.